Hi, it's Michael Kerr here, presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, I interview a fellow small business owner or an expert, and they share their stories, their lived experiences, the wins and the losses, and their best advice to help you, the listener, get the most you can from your own business. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. And thanks also to Kerr Capital, supporters of the show. Welcome into another edition of Small Business Banter Community Radio and Podcast. Carmen Williams is with me today. Carmen's going to be chatting about outsourcing. And so firstly, welcome in, Carmen. Really nice to have you in.
Such a pleasure, Michael.
Yeah, I was a client of your business, and that's how we got to know each other. But I know that you think you know how transformative outsourcing can be for business owners, and that's the kind of gist of the conversation today. Try and extract some of your wisdom to help others, who have heard of it, maybe haven't taken advantage of it. So, do you want to just give us a minute or two? So the name of your business is Global Teams, and you're in a partnership with Maureen.
Yes.
So can you just give us a quick snapshot of your personal professional background leading up to starting this business?
Ooh, well, way back when I was a scientist. So was an expert in fetal lung development, random, but anyway. So I've done a lot of things, Michael. So scientist, I worked in the healthcare industry. I was running a consulting communication business, and then people started asking me, going, "Hey, Carmen, you've grown your own virtual assistant team," because between you and me, Michael, I like having ideas, but getting support to implement them. And so my existing client said, "Hey, you've done it for yourself. I've tried it before. It didn't work. Could you help us?" And Maureen and I looked at each other and were like, "Oh, no, it might distract us. But they're a good client. Okay, we'll do it for them." And then we had someone else ask us. Anyway, like a few years later, and 82 virtual assistants. And yeah, it's distracted us so much that that's our core business now.
Right. So 82 virtual assistants serving, I'm imagining, hundreds and hundreds of small and medium businesses. It's a long way from where you started, but that's often the best way to run a business is bring in a whole lot of different experience and some purpose and passion. So
yeah, all my transferable skills, Michael.
Yeah, and recognising the ones that where you need some help, right? Which we all should do, and that's probably that for me. Outsourcing. It's kind of almost sounded like it's just for big business. Something you send offshore. But do you want to give us your take on what outsourcing is and the use of virtual assistants to help small and medium sized businesses?
For sure, Michael. So I'm going to be a little bit controversial. I don't even really like the word outsourcing or the term. To me, it sounds like a business owner just like moving a problem somewhere else and hoping that it's magically going to be solved. What I really love supporting business owners with is to get team members. So to get people who, they're offshore. Our team are in the Philippines, but they could be in other places of the country as well. And to get that person to be part of your business, to be part of your team, to get to know you, to get to understand your context. And so instead of outsourcing, it's almost like you're getting support from a team member.
So you're kind of bringing someone in rather than
flicking work out.
Yeah, that it is. It's a pretty cold term. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a small distinction I'd like to make around that. You can, there are people who or services, outsourcing services, which say they're going to solve your problem and just send it over there and it's magically going to be solved. But I don't know, Michael. Business is messy. It's never that easy.
No, it's not. And I think most businesses rely on the team to be successful. So, yeah, I love that distinction. I think it's a great one, and that you're kind of building and growing and bringing in people to help. So, yeah, I'm pleased you brought that up. What's the upside in growing your team then, from using a virtual assistant or someone else that's maybe not in the office physically with you?
So, Michael, when I was a baby businesswoman, so I just decided one day randomly that I was going to quit my perfectly good job in strategic planning and healthcare and start a business. I knew nothing about business. I didn't know the difference between marketing or sales. It was one of those spur of the moment craziness. Everyone thought I'd gone mad. Anyway, I had this idea, Michael, that people were just going to find me and ask me to do work for them. And we all know where this is going to go.
Because you were so good at it.
It didn't magically happen. So I worked out in those early days, I was doing consulting. So LinkedIn was going to be my place.
Yep.
And so what I quickly worked out was I needed someone to be able to support me to do the LinkedIn connections, the messages, the posting of my content. So I could spend time picking up the phone and calling people, the old fashioned sort of approach.
Yep.
And so I worked out that I wasn't going to grow my business if I didn't get support. So as a baby businesswoman, cash flow was really tight back then. I invested in a virtual assistant because I knew there was no other way for me to grow.
So, but it did sound like you had a fairly good awareness of what you were maybe good at, what you needed to do versus what was stuff that could be given to somebody else. Is that an important part of the getting it right, is working out what you shouldn't?
Yeah, I really think scoping out what a virtual assistant can do for you is really important in terms of you getting maximum return on investment, but also getting a scenario that's actually viable. So we all fantasize about getting unicorns in our business that can solve everything magically and do everything that we don't like doing. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist, especially if you're getting your first virtual assistant. You're going to want someone who's a bit of an all-rounder, but they're not going to be superstars at everything you need support with. So working out what's practical and what's possible, and that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck is a really important thing prior to jumping in and getting a virtual assistant.
Yeah. So when you deal with a lot of business owners and you deal with them, day in, day out. What do you think's on at the minute? What do you think's on their mind as the kind of barriers to having more success in their business? Is it things like the classic "I don't have time," or is it do you see something a bit more fundamental, a bit deeper that is really going on that could be a problem solved?
I mean, talking from experience, Michael, and you're a business owner yourself, so I'm not sure where you'd land with me on this, but I just think to be in business, you have to be brave and you have to be resilient, and you find yourself doing these things that are scary all the time. And so for me, and I get scared and sometimes I retreat, but for me, it's been that willingness to go, all right, I'll just put myself out there. I'll get a virtual assistant even though I'm scared of it, or I'll put myself on social media even though it's scary. And it's that. And when I speak to business owners, the successful ones are the ones that just keep on going, just keep on pushing, and feel that discomfort and do it anyway.
Yeah, pushing through, the brick wall or whatever. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You got to be brave, and you got to be resilient. What are some of the to this notion that I'm not big enough as a business to take on an assistant? What would you say to them? Or maybe it's better. Can you talk about some of the sort of businesses that you work with and how it's kind of transformed them? By taking that brave step.
So the whole "I'm not big enough," you might not be established enough for a virtual assistant. So let me just address that. Virtual assistants are awesome. I love them. I find it actually really addictive. Once you get good support, Michael, you just want more. But some businesses, they don't have an established system for a sales model. They don't have confidence that their next client's just around the corner, that they got their marketing methods in place. And it doesn't need to be perfect, but you need to have some degree of confidence in your business, and you also need to have your the tasks that the virtual assistant's going to do quite clear in your mind. So you do need to have some of your I's dotted and T's crossed, not perfectly, but some stuff before you get a virtual assistant. We've got clients who've got virtual assistants in all different industries, from like recruitment to gardeners to mortgage brokers to lawyers. Like we've got the whole spectrum, which I think is fantastic, because then I get to learn about all different businesses and all the things that they can do. So I would say, Michael, that most businesses, if they really want to grow, most businesses would be ready for a virtual assistant, but not all of them.
What about, and I think what you said early on in that was defining what is good to be passed over to somebody else, and that's like a lot of things in the work I do, helping owners get ready to sell their business eventually. You have to go back in this, from that ideal outcome to what are the things I need to do and when, and that means by default you've got to take time out of the business, today to kind of plan for something down the line. But I think we both agree that's the that's where you get the return, is being a lot clearer about what you need done. But is there a case when, even if a business doesn't want to grow, that you can still perhaps free up more time, or you can make your business a bit more profitable, because you still work your 50 hours a week or whatever you might do, but you're spending it on higher value activity? I mean, is that so? Even if you're not growth minded, in the traditional sense of I want more, more revenue or more customers or something.
And that's a really good point, Michael. Sometimes people get virtual assistants because they want to improve their lifestyle. We often go into business because we want that independence, the freedom, but sometimes we find ourselves tied to our business. So, for example, one of our clients is in e-commerce, and she goes, "I can't go on holidays, Carmen, like without a virtual assistant." So that's the problem she was looking to solve. Now, obviously, a virtual assistant is not going to do everything in an e-commerce business when she's on holidays. There's going to be some stuff waiting for her, but a lot of it can be done by the virtual assistant. So, if you want to be able to pick your kids up from school or go on holidays and not check your emails, then having that team there to support you to do the day-to-day things ticking over can be a really good strategy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the reality for there are 2.4 million small businesses, small and medium in Australia, is that there are some call it lifestyle businesses, whatever you want to call it. Those businesses that are you've got a nice little niche, or is at a size where they're pretty happy. You can always improve things and change things, but there's a lot of those owners that are largely kind of getting a pretty satisfactory return. And so the idea of engaging more team, could be just to kind of, as you say, free up hours or just, sharpen the efficiencies a bit so you don't worry so much about it. I mean, I don't know who doesn't worry about their business, after you shut off the laptop or, walk out of the office.
Yeah.
So you're about to say something. Yeah.
And then I think it's sometimes a combination of both. Like I love going on holidays, and often when I'm on holidays, like I went scuba diving in Cairns the other week, and I did no business at all while I was there, and it was amazing because I knew that things were ticking over while I was gone. Some things, waited, but most things were ticking over. But saying that, when I find that when I've got space, so when my virtual assistant's organising my calendar and doing my social media marketing and all that stuff's happening every day, independent of me. I find that I have ideas. I'm more strategic. I'm like, ooh, we could do this in the business. Ooh, let's do this. Ooh, let's start a podcast. And that's when like the high level strategies come in that are going to like transform my business in the future.
Yeah, because you're not thinking about, did I book that meeting or have I ordered that thing or so. On today's edition of Small Business Banter Community Radio and Podcast, chatting with Carmen Williams from Global Teams. Yeah, that's that idea of, the business is kind of ticking away while you're not there is a good thing. I think it gets taken to a lot of extremes where it's, earn money while you kind of sleep. I think there's a lot of, I think that gets overdone. But, with some of those businesses you see advertised on, on social media. You actively use virtual assistants yourself, right? So can you just, like, you're a business owner, you've got pretty, it's grown pretty fast. What do you use them to, for your? How do you use them for your own purposes and your business partners?
Yeah, it's a great question, Michael. So, my team do all sorts of stuff for me. So, for example, Jonathan, I know he was interacting with you around scheduling our time together. So, if that back and forth or when you're available, whatever, Jonathan just managed it. So this appointment's in my calendar, and I can be fully present but not do the juggling beforehand. So appointments is one thing that I think a lot of business owners would benefit from. Then there's organizing emails and making sure that I am aware of a few that I need to respond to, but Jonathan does the rest of them. Social media marketing is a huge one. So LinkedIn and all the other platforms, actually putting content out on there, connecting with the right people, engaging them, giving them free offers. Like at the moment, we're messaging 25,000 people on LinkedIn, sharing with them a free resource that they can get access to. So we're getting heaps of leads from that. It's unlimited, like updating the blogs on the website. When I write an email, I don't actually send it out, the team send it out. So when I was in Cairns, I'd already written an email, a few weeks before that, and the team sent the email out to the whole database. So there's so much that virtual assistants can do. Like if you think of an intelligent, eager person who's just there supporting you in your business, you think of all the things that they can do. They can organize all your content. So I don't know if you're anything like me, like I film content and it's just a mess. So they organize it so that they can find it. There was 3 months last year where I produced no content at all, and the team just used old content because they could find it for all my social media. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. They can do a lot.
Yeah, look, it sure is, and I do love that in offloading or getting someone else to do some of those things. It creates a bit of freedom and a bit of space to think about some of the, I think your term, strategic things. And like to keep your business going forward, you need to keep adapting and you need to keep fresh. So that's one of the things. Is there? From some experience I had, very successful. Going back maybe a couple of years with Global Teams, we did more or less a project. I think I engaged with someone, and it was like, so it wasn't. I just knew it felt to me like I wasn't getting something really important done, and it was this big chunk of work, and I approached it like it was a project rather than a normal role that was going on in the business. So is that another way for owners to think about how to use a virtual assistant, project by project? I mean, you don't, it can't be like, there's got to be restrictions or it's got to be parameters that make it worthwhile for both parties. But is that another way to think about it?
Yeah, that's a really good distinction. So you can get team members, which is what we specialise in. Then you can do projects, and because Michael was such a cool person, I said, yeah, sure, we'll help you with a project. And then you can get tasks as well. Right. So so, for example, Upwork or Airtasker, you'd find someone to edit a book,
Yeah.
for example. And so what I do is get the best of both worlds. So my business partner, Maureen Pound, has just launched a book. And so to format that book, my team member virtual assistant engaged someone on Upwork and did the negotiation between them.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, right.
you can actually sort of mend it. I can't even, use the best of both worlds.
Yeah. But I gather then in you kind of letting go to allow someone to do that, you've got an established relationship. They understand you and what you're trying to achieve. So because going to Upwork or whatever it's called, what is it called? Anyway, there's a few of them.
Airtasker and Upwork, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of you're not necessarily spending tons of money, but you can also waste time and energy trying to brief someone, and because it's completely unfamiliar and they don't really have any. It's hard to put a brief down.
Yeah, they don't have the context. So one of my team members, who's a long-term virtual assistant, had the context and then was able to brief someone on one of those platforms. So even I use those platforms.
And you were confident in them.
My virtual assistants use those platforms.
Yeah, so you've successfully been able to develop a relationship where there's, you trust. I mean, we all need that.
And it takes time. It takes time, just as any team member in any country, it takes time for that trust to build, that context to build, for them to start to be able to read your mind, to go, Carmen, are you sure about that? Is that really what you want?
It's a fair skill to have, isn't it, reading minds? All right, so if you were to kind of pinpoint or identify a few of the sort of biggest barriers to people, I know you and I both want to see more successful business owners. Some of the barriers you see and how to, and more importantly, how to overcome them. Like, do you come up against sort of typical, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not going to do it because X or because of Y, and then what do you say to them?
Yeah. So I need to be really honest, Michael. For virtual assistants to work well, the business owner needs to be prepared to feel a bit uncomfortable. Like at the start, like I'm talking about the fantasies of delegating things and how amazing it's going to be and go on holidays. But at the start, it's really weird to go, oh, could you organise my emails? I'm not really sure how to delegate that actually. What do I really want? And it takes a bit of back and forth, and things are not going to be perfect at the start. And you need to be open to tweaking things and open to putting in that time and the effort to making it work. And so I say to our clients, it's like, I don't need you to be perfect. Like, you don't need to be a perfect delegator. You don't need to be a perfect communicator. You don't have to have perfect systems, but you do need to be open to looking at yourself and, receiving feedback around how to work with your virtual assistant to get the outcome you want. So it's a bit uncomfortable at the start.
And it is, what you're saying is it's two-way as well. You've got to invest to get to make them productive or efficient or whatever. It's not just a case of. That's why I particularly like when you debunk. It's outsourcing is like ship it off and demand or expect it'll be back in this form by this time, and it's never as straightforward as that. Try and employ people. That's challenging, And in theory and on paper, you could solve a whole lot of problems, but it's just not that easy, unfortunately. But that's why we persist. We've got a couple of minutes left. I wanted to give you the opportunity just to talk a little bit about global teams. I think there's some. I get your emails, and they're always good fun. But more importantly, there's some really good messages in there about getting on and doing things that you should be doing, you're doing, you're not doing, and you're feeling bad about it. So tell us a little bit about global teams and what the process might be for someone who's thought about getting in a team member.
Yeah. So thanks, Michael. So global teams, like, we're all about the support. A lot of people focus on getting the right virtual assistant, which is really important, but that's like focusing on the wedding and not the marriage. And so, like, let's have an awesome wedding and an awesome marriage. So we support the business owners to communicate and delegate, the virtual assistants to be able to ask questions and say, Carmen, you're not making any sense, or I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so we've got a whole heap of support structures around that. And we've also got a whole heap of resources free resources on the website just for you to explore a bit further. Like, we've got a book, What a VA Can Do For You, list of 100 things that virtual assistants did for us when we were in Fiji, and just check them out. So you can start to ponder, is this something that could work for me? How would it work for me? Do I want to feel uncomfortable and make it work, or maybe not? So, so I think the next steps, if you wanted to explore this further, is go check out the website and download some of those free resources and just explore it a bit further.
So, and the website?
Is globalteams.com.au.
Okay, yeah, and I can talk from experience. I can't remember which publication it was, but when we first chatted a couple of years back, I'd had some less than successful experience before that. But you or Maureen pointed me to that book. It's like, okay, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things really, when I think about it, that I do that probably, I can tell myself that it's important, but it's not, where I should necessarily be spending, my time. I'll get a better return. So, yeah, I think that's a great. So globalteams.com.au, start there and download some of those publications and subscribe to some of to the email list, because, as I said, it's fun and sometimes irreverent, but also there's some pretty good messages in there. No one's going to sort of do this overnight, but you've got to start the process of thinking about a better way to do things. So, Carmen, thank you so much for your time on Small Business Banter today.
Pleasure, Michael. Thanks for having me.
So that's all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. I continue to be inspired, bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. If you want to listen to any past episode, jump onto your podcast platform of choice and search Small Business Banter. There you will find a diverse and fascinating collection of small business owners and experts openly discussing and sharing their experiences. For any of the links, resources, or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact me, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And it would be great to have you tune in the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.